Alrighty, it's a little early, so I'm kind of waking up, rubbing out the boogers here. But we're gonna run through this pretty quickly. So, on this week's of Saturday night selections on Sunday morning, here at 7:30, just trying to get it out before the first session of games. Gonna go through a couple of things. We have the injury report. We'll update our current rankings for 1 to 36, being your RB1s, RB2s, and RB3s. Same with wide receivers. Your startums for the weeks for positions 1, 2, and 3, both on the wide receiver and running back side. And then your setums, 2 players from running backs, 2 players from wide receivers that are not posed to have a pretty good week. Rookies of the week actually have 2 this week. It's a little surprise. And then 30-second salaries, where we go through some of the bets and lines that I like, and actually I went through with for this week. So injury report. There's 4 games that have some pretty significant injuries. Starting with the Colts Jags. We have Michael Pittman out, Alec Pierce, which is the rookie wide receiver 2, is out, and then Shaquille Leonard, which is their heart of their defense, all out. These are significant enough to move the points. They were a 7.5 favorite, and they've moved it down to a 3. So it's pretty concerning. The Jags didn't look that bad last weekend, especially with Travis Etienne and uh, James Robinson. But this might be a game to watch out for. It could be an upset at Jacksonville. Second game is the Bucks and Saints, which is kind of a wild one every year. The last couple of years, Saints have actually got the better of the Bucks, especially at New Orleans. We have Chris Godwin that is out, and then we have 4 additional wide receivers and Leonard Fournette that are questionable. So it's kind of limiting that pool there. So it's going to be it might be a little tough to make some production on the offense. And then on the Saints side, you have questionable Kamara, Winston, and Ingram. So that's going to be something to watch out for. Kamara with the rib injury and Winston with the back injury could be pretty significant if either of them are out for today. The next one's going to be Cincinnati Bengals and Dallas Cowboys. You have Dak Prescott, who had surgery on his thumb this last week and will be out 6 to 8 weeks. Michael Gallup at wide receiver is also out, kind of limiting those tools on offense. I still don't see Zeke having a good week. I just think the Cowboys offense is going to put up potentially another week with no touchdowns, unfortunately. But we'll see how that goes. And then Seattle and San Fran. This is kind of crazy to me. San Fran being a 9.5 favorite. I don't think they cover that, but we'll see. I guess we have Elijah Mitchell out with the sprained MCL. I think he's out 6 weeks. And then George Kittle's questionable, but I believe he's playing this week. But he might not be 100%. So we'll see. But I definitely don't see San Fran covering 9.5. I think it's a bit much for them. And this is the updated tier list. So this one hopefully is a little bit cleaner than we had last time. Let me move my big old head here. That's not gonna help you. Let's throw it to the top. Okay, boom. All right. So our tier 1 is gonna be this top tier. We have, of course, rank 1, Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey at 2, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, Austin Eckler in the 5 spot, Joe Mixon, Najee Harris, Alvin Kamara in 7, Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley at 8. Definitely think he should be moved up a bit more. Actually, that's not 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I can't count. Saquon Barkley is at 10. Apologies. DeAndre Swift at 11 and Aaron Jones at 12. On the RB2s RB2s 13 through 24, we're looking at Javonte Williams, Leonard Fournette, James Conner, Ezekiel Elliott, Travis Etienne, Elijah Mitchell, Monty, Cam Akers still. This one he should be sliding down pretty soon, considering he got 3 carries last week. If we don't see a significant uptick in volume this week, this will probably be a RB3 or kind of off the list. AJ Dillon, Josh Jacobs, J.K. Dobbins, and Breece Hall to cap off the RB2s. And then flowing into RB3s, this guy I like a lot this week. Antonio Gibson had a huge week 1. Damian Harris, Rashad Penny, Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 2 pretty solid weeks in a row. Chase Edmonds, Miles Sanders, Ramondre Stevenson, Devin Singletary, Tony Pollard, Kareem Hunt, Cordero Patterson, and what's his name? Damian Pierce to finish out RB3s. Honorable mentions, Melvin Gordon still has been doing pretty solid. He's getting about 40% of the work down in Denver. And then Michael Carter, who's actually leading the Jets. Running back core right now, but we'll probably see that switch over to Breece Hall as the season goes on. Wide receivers, these ones don't have names, so I'll do my best to remind them all, but it should be good. Good. Jay Jettis, who had an absolute crazy first week. Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel, CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans, Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown, T. Higgins, and to wrap up 12, Michael Pittman Jr., who was out the second week, had a great first week, but actually got a quad injury in practice on Wednesday, and it's kept him out. Your wide receiver twos are going to be Cortland Sutton, DJ Moore, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, Gabe Davis, Jalen Waddle, DK Metcalf, Allen Robinson, Brandon Cooks, Deontay Johnson, and Marquise Brown. Hollywood Brown down there should have a huge week in Las Vegas as well. In your wide receiver threes, we have Jerry Jeudy, Darnell Mooney, Rashad Bateman, Chris Godwin, Elijah Moore, Jarvis Landry, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Amari Cooper, Adam Thielen, Brandon Ayuk, and wrapping up Adam Lazard. And so not too much shakeup in the wide receivers. Running backs, you kind of see that more significant adjustments with the playtime. Wide receivers, you can have a good game and bounce back on the next one. So we'll see how this week kind of changes things. But there's 4 honorable mentions that kind of popped off in week 1 and when they're out there. Robbie Anderson has had a couple of bad years, but like a 70-yard bomb from Baker Mayfield last week, and it skyrocketed his points. So let's see if it's a fluke or if it's pretty consistent. I think he had 8 targets on the day, so really solid. We got our first rookie to make the list, Jahan Dotson. He only had 3 receptions, but 2 of them turned in for touchdowns, so very solid conversion rate. He was getting 14 yards per reception. Curtis Samuel did really well. He had 8 receptions on 11 targets, and he also had 4 rushes, which is kind of interesting for the Commanders, and maybe they'll turn him into a little Deebo Samuel run and catch action. And then Jarvis Landry actually had a really good week, week 1 with the Saints team. So hopefully he can reciprocate that. I think Michael Thomas might have a harder matchup into the Falcons with Pryor being on him, but we'll see how that turns out. Now our stardoms for the week. On your RB1s, I do have Joe Mixon. He didn't have anything significant last week, but a couple things to mention is he's one of the few running backs that doesn't have too much of a committee. You have Samaje Perine who plays third downs primarily, but Joe Mixon still assists on those. And the volume he got last week was insane. I mean, we know Bengals went to overtime, but still had 27 rushes, and he had 7 receptions, which is the most I think we've ever seen out of Joe Mixon. So we'll see, hopefully, that those receptions stay or increase, or as long as they're in that 5 to 7 range. I think he's a very solid RB1, and against a crumbled Cowboys team this week, I think the Bengals dominate. I can see Joe Mixon getting 24 plus points this week. Running back 2, Javonte Williams. The same kind of story as Joe Mixon, right? Nothing super incredible on the actual ground game, only 7 touches. But we have 11 receptions, which is absolutely insane. Because if you're playing the PPR league, that's 11 points instantly right off the bat. And last year, we were really concerned about the usage of Melvin Gordon compared to Javonte. It was like a dead even 50-50 split. And then after week 1, we're seeing a 60-40 split right now with Mike Boone get a couple carries. But it's Javonte Williams. We've seen the production. We know he's a much better running back than Melvin Gordon. So against a Texans team, it's not very substantial. I think he has a very good week. I can see him putting up 22 plus points this week. And our third running back 3 here I have Antonio Gibson at the Lions. So the Lions let up 4 rushing touchdowns last week to 4 different players on the Eagles. So I'm hoping that the Commanders can reciprocate that. They had a very good first week. Antonio Gibson is splitting it a little bit with J.D. McKissick, but he's still having over 60% of the volume. I think it's Gibson's backfield until Brian Robinson gets back, I think week 4, week 5, after the non-football related injury. But this has kind of been the story, right? Is these running backs that are getting the catches in the backfield, right? Nothing significant on the rush side. 14 attempts, 400.1 yards per rush. But he had 7 receptions to tie that together with 72 yards, so over 10 yards per reception. But I feel like all 3 of these guys find the end zone this week, and they kind of boost those numbers, give him a little extra 6 points. And I can see him putting up 20 plus points against a not so great Lions defense. Now our sit-ins for the week. These 2 guys, I don't think there's much surprise, right? Breece Hall, everyone was kind of saying sit him first week. Did not put up anything very significant. Had a few catches as well, maybe six or 7 fantasy points. The Browns have a pretty solid defense, especially against the run. I don't think the Jets are going to do much on the offensive side. I still think Michael Carter has a significant role as of week 2 in the Jets offense. Like I said, later down the season, Breece Hall will probably take that over. But right now, he doesn't have a significant enough role to make it worth that. So I'm sitting Breece Hall at the Browns. And Cam Akers, this one was kind of shocking to everyone. Everyone's like, where the hell is Cam Akers? I think it's kind of more of a discipline and effort kind of decision. Because I believe Cam Akers is a better running back than Darrell Henderson. But when they're not hustling, not protecting their quarterback, they get sat. It's not really rocket science. So he would be, have a massive day against the Falcons. But I don't think he's going to touch the ball very much. I think Darrell Henderson's going to have a field day and put up, probably 2 touchdowns and 100 plus all-purpose yards. So unfortunately, Cam Akers is not going to have a great week. Love to see him back in there after the injury, but he's got to prove himself on the dedication side first. Now our stardoms wide receiver ones, Davante Adams, absolutely blew up last week. Had a great week. They were playing the Chargers. He had 17 targets, which is actually insane. I mean, if you have 17 targets on a 17 game season, you're getting 270 opportunities. I mean, the volume that went his way was crazy. Even catching 60% of them at 10. He's going to have a great year if he continues to see this volume. I don't think he sees 17 targets a game, but if he sees 12 to 14, he catches 8 to 10 of them. I mean, he's absolutely wide receiver 1. We know he's been solid for years, and clear that he did not drop off going from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr, who's his college quarterback. So these guys have a great connection already. I'd probably see Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow get a little bit more involved this week, but I still think he gets 8 to 10 receptions, close to 100 yards and a touchdown on the Cardinals defense, putting him at 26 points for the week. Our wide receiver 2 is going to be someone who was very disappointing week 1. Everyone's like, what the hell happened? Allen Robinson. It was kind of it's always been the Cooper Kupp show. So they need to get Allen Robinson involved. They were getting some rookie that Ben Skowronek. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. They're just not even looking Allen Robinson's way with 2 targets for last week against the Bills. They'll have a lot easier matchup this week against the Falcons. I think Allen Robinson actually has a real big bounce back day. Matt Stafford needs a bounce back day. He got sacked 7 times against the Bills and had 4 turnovers. And I definitely don't see that happening with this Falcons defense. I think Matt Stafford lights it up. I think Allen Robinson lights it up. And I'm going 18 plus points this week on Allen Robinson. And then our last one here is Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's on the cusp of a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, depending on how you go, kind of in that flex spot. But everyone was kind of concerned about Amon Ra with DJ Shark coming in, and there's nothing to be concerned about. I mean, Amon Ra is clear cut wide receiver 1. I mean, he's the streak that started last year going into this year. The amount of targets, the amount of receptions he's getting is just, it's so consistent, it's so reliable. He's obviously the wide receiver 1 in this Lions offense. The ground attack between DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams opens up a lot of room for this pass action play. And he's seeing 10, 12 targets a game. So he's receiving 8 of them. Nothing crazy. 8 yards per catch. Solid 64 yards and a touchdown. It's not too much you can ask for. I mean, it's 20 points last week. I see him easily getting 16 plus points against the Commanders this week. And in our sit-ems, these two guys unfortunately aren't in the best circumstance. And that's why they're sitting CeeDee Lamb, head short of a pathetic week 1 performance. Not necessarily his fault, but the Cowboys offense was non-existent against Tampa Bay. The only team in the league to not score a touchdown in week 1, unfortunate. But he only had 2 receptions for 29 yards. Like, these are wide receiver 3 numbers, unfortunately, and he's spending a second round pick on him, which is, way too high of a price tag for this kind of production. Even going up against the Bengals, where they should be trailing most of the game, I don't think Cooper Rush does a great job in getting him the ball. So I'm sitting CeeDee Lamb. I know it's kind of crazy, but I'm picking up Curtis Samuel. I'm picking up Jahan Dotson. I'm picking up, if I have Amon Ra on the bench, I'm starting Amon Ra over him. I think there's a lot of better options over CeeDee Lamb, unfortunately, until we can see something out of Cooper Rush or we see Dak Prescott get back. And the other one is Darnell Mooney. So this one's a little tough, right? Chicago and San Fran had that kind of water bowl last week where, I mean, it was very hard to do anything, right? You're just splashing around, so it's basically a water park. But Darnell Mooney only had 1 reception for 8 yards. I just don't trust Justin Fields' arm. That's my go-to there. I just don't think he's gonna have a great week against the Packers. I'm sitting down on Mooney. Don't have a ton of faith in him. He's a low end or wide receiver 3. High end wide receiver 2, low end wide receiver 3. Just never been a huge Darnell Mooney fan, and I don't think he's kind of very hit or miss. He'll have 4 or 5 bad weeks and then 1 big week, and everyone's like, "Oh, Darnell Mooney." It's not worth the risk, right? Having 4 or 5 bad weeks in a row to have 1 good week. It's not gonna win you your league. He's not gonna win your league. And the rookies of the week, we mentioned this guy a couple times, Jahan Dotson. Like I said, he only had 3 receptions last week, which is not a ton of volume. He had 3 targets, so caught all of his targets, put up 40 yards, but those 3 catches turned into 2 touchdowns, which is very, hybrid goal routes could you ask for, right? But it also puts faith from Carson Wentz into Jahan Dotson as a rookie. I think he has a big weekend at the Lions. This is going to be a kind of a shootout type game. I'm thinking you're going to have 28 points from each team. So hopefully, there's plenty of touchdowns to go around on both sides. One second, guys. Sorry about that intermission. Bit of a family man, so where the kids are crying, I gotta go run and help out. That's just how it works. All right, so we had just covered Jahan Dotson, Chris Olave. I think he's gonna have a huge week at the Bucks. The wide receiver core looked very, very good last week with Jarvis Landry. Michael Thomas is back, right? He's showing that he's got wide receiver one capability. And Chris Olave was 3 for 3, 41 yards, very solid in areas that they needed him. I think he has a great week against the Bucks. Saints are throwing the ball a ton. I don't think Alvin Kamara has a crazy week, but I think he gets a lot of screen passes and still puts up 15 points. So Chris Olave is going to have a great week against the Buccaneers. And the last part is our 30-second salaries. So we'll try to cover this quick, but there's a little bit more to cover in 30 seconds. So let's get going. 3-leg parlay. We have Washington Commanders money line over Detroit. Indianapolis Colts cover the 3.5 spread over Jacksonville Jaguars. We think Jonathan Taylor goes crazy. And then Cincinnati Bengals cover 7.5. They win double-digit points over Dallas Cowboys. Plus 656 on that parlay. Tons of money paid back. 5-leg parlay. This one's all touchdowns. These are all running backs. Saquon Barkley went crazy. Christian McCaffrey, they're playing each other. They're both getting a touchdown. And this is anytime touchdowns, so it could be receiving or rushing. Antonio Gibson, I mean, these guys are just the upside for touchdowns is crazy. Jonathan Taylor is going crazy. Joe Mixon, this is a lock. 1376. I mean, you bet a couple bucks on this, you're winning $25. It's up to you guys. Be responsible. Be careful. Don't bet with money you don't have. But if you're looking for some good opportunities, this is where they're at. So that does conclude our presentation. Sorry for the short intermission there. Like I said, kids, you gotta help out with kids. But week 2 is gonna be exciting. I think there's gonna be a ton of high score. We're looking for a lot of the vengeance games on some of those playoff tier teams that are looking to bounce back after a rough start. So hopefully we can catch you guys next Saturday night on our Saturday night selections of rather than Sunday morning. But if you need any advice, feel free to reach out. I'm going to be posting this on my YouTube channel as well. Same thing, DJ was here 44. You can find it there. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm glad to help. Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.